It's finally spring, let's paint some tulips. I'm using this watercolor journal. It's 5.5 inches by 5.5. I'm using the round size 6 and 3 brushes and LUKAS 1862 watercolors. You can grab all of my supplies at Jerry's Artarama and use the link below. Here are the colors that I'll be using. And I'm just sketching out the pot for the tulips. Make sure to sketch really lightly in case you want to erase your pencil lines later. I'm using the cobalt turquoise color. I watered it down a lot so that it's a much lighter value. If you want to learn more about how to mix different paint and water consistencies, make sure to check out my video about that. You want to make sure that your paint is watery enough so that you can spread it out quickly. You can also use a larger brush to cover that entire area. While this first layer is still wet, I'm going in there with the cobalt turquoise again, but a darker value, and making one side of the pot slightly darker to indicate a shadow. Now I'm going to start painting the tulips, and I'm using the round size 6 brush again, and I'm using various values of the magenta color and the yellow, and I also mixed in a little bit of purple just to show a range of analogous colors. I'm keeping my brush strokes really loose, and I'll add some details later, so I just want to give hints to the form of the tulip flower rather than giving everything away. If you're interested in learning how to paint watercolor tulips like this, I actually have an online mini course about it. And if you like all kinds of flowers and want to paint it in my kind of style, then I have a masterclass watercolor loose florals bundle too. So make sure to check that out at courses.audreyrawdesign.com, or you can check out the link below. I like to sometimes paint floral elements right next to each other, and as you just saw, that dark purple bled into that light purple area. Use this technique wisely so that you can control the bleeding of the paint. If you want to learn more about bleeds, you can check out Beginner Watercolor Exercises Part 2, where I talk about bleeds, blends, and blooms. Alright, let's start adding the leaves and stems. As you can see, I have a really blank middle area where I'm going to add my leaves. And I'm starting out with a medium value because I can always go in there with darker ones and then fill in other blank areas with lighter values. I'm being really careful because I don't want the green to bleed too much into the flowers, especially if they're still wet. I'm also spacing out my leaves so that I can layer on top of them later. I'm using primarily the sap green with a little bit of chromium oxide green mixed into it for a little bit more opacity. I'm starting the work on the soil, and I've watered down the burnt umber quite a bit so that it's a much lighter value. Remember, with watercolors, you always want to work from light to dark because this is a transparent medium. I'm still using my round size 6 brush, and I'm just dabbing my brush at the bottom of those tulips. Remember to leave a little bit of white space for the highlights so that the painting doesn't look too flat. Okay, I'm coming back in with some more of the green leaves. I've added even more of the chromium oxide green to the sap green so that we have darker leaves. Again, I'm proceeding kind of slowly because a lot of my painting is still very wet and I don't want the paint to bleed too much. You can obviously speed up this process by using a hairdryer or just giving yourself time. I've switched to my round size 3 brush, And I grabbed a darker purple color to add some line details to my tulips. This is definitely an optional step because if you were able to achieve enough dimension the first time around, you don't really need to add these details. I also mixed in just a little bit of orange into my cadmium yellow light to add the line details on the yellow tulips. The painting is coming together really nicely. I'm back to using the round size 6 brush and adding some thin stems in a very light value. I'm also going to start filling in the gaps in between the flowers with that light value. Let's add some detail to the flower pot. I'm using the round size 3 brush and a really dark Prussian green color. And I'm starting with some dots just at the top rim of the pot. And then my brush was really dry, so I had to pick up just a little bit more wet paint. And then I'm using that paint to draw really small, slightly rounded diamonds. At this point in the painting, you might feel a little frustrated that maybe the dots aren't evenly spaced or that the diamonds aren't exactly the same shape throughout. And this is why painting with a more looser approach is so beautiful, because you can lean into those imperfections and it's totally okay. So if your diamonds are not perfect and they're not evenly spaced, that's okay. I also decided to give the pot just a little bit more dimension and detail, so I added some faint horizontal lines across the top, middle, and bottom to give it a little bit more shape. By now the soil around the tulips have dried, so I'm using my round size 3 brush and going in there with a darker value of the burnt umber and just loosely drawing some curved lines. Curved and wavy lines. Okay, it's time to add some final details to our tulips. I'm staying with the round size 3 brush and just filling in any more gaps, maybe layering where I can and adding some more leaves and stems. Don't feel like you have to cover every inch of the painting. Just do one and then step back, take a look at it, do another one, step back and take a look. If you followed along with me and post on social media, please tag me at AudreyRaDesign and use the hashtag PaintWithAudrey. Thanks so much and I'll see you next time. Bye.